Alright everyone, and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be talking about squatting. So we're going to talk specifically about the why, the what and the when. We're not going to be talking about how to. This is not a tutorial on how to squat, but if that was what you're looking for, still stick around because you might pick up some little nuggets here that will make your search for the how-to video more appropriate so you can get the right squat for what you want to achieve. So stick around.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts.
The squat is an awesome exercise. It's really versatile. There's lots of variations you can do with it, whether it's a back squat, high or low bar. You've got front squats, you've got goblet squats, you've got pistol squats, skater squats. Loads of different variations that can all give you different kind of impulses and stuff. So it's a great versatile exercise that everybody should be doing really. Now we're going to look at a few different types of squat, and we'll talk about why you would do them and why you wouldn't do them, what the benefits are, what the downsides to them are. The first one I'm going to start with is the good old-fashioned back squat. Now when I say back squat, what I'm referring to is a high bar back squat. What I mean by high bar back squat is the position of the bar on your back. So it should be on the traps, fairly high up, yeah? That is your classic high bar back squat. Like so. Now, this is a great exercise. It's the kind of core squat exercise. It's the one that, you know, you should be doing. Everybody should be doing, really. If your goal is general fitness, perfect exercise. If your goal is hypertrophy, perfect exercise. If your goal is function, perfect exercise. High bar back squat. Now, specifically, if your goal is hypertrophy, like I have talked about a million times, then the high bar back squat is the exercise you should be doing. The reason it is such a good exercise for hypertrophy when we're looking at the quads is it targets the quads better than the other variations of exercise in terms of the amount of load that you can get directly going into the quads. Now it does train your glutes and your adductors as well, and a little bit of low back, but your main focus is the quads. And if your goal is to get bigger legs, bigger quads, back squat is the exercise for you. Now you do have to be aware of axial loading, again something I've mentioned before. So the axial fatigue you can put on because of the compression through the spine makes back squatting quite a onerous exercise that can fatigue you quite quickly. So you have to measure the amount of repetitions you do and the amount of sets, etc., and the volume over the course of a week to make sure you're not going to fry your central nervous system and not get the most out of the exercise. But back squat, great exercise. Everybody should be doing it. Okay. The next exercise that we're going to consider is a back squat, but a low bar back squat. So when we're talking about low bar back squat, the bar is now lower on your back. So across the kind of middle of the shoulder blades, that means that the bar is now in a position where it's putting less lever force through your spine, so you can in effect lift more weight because you've reduced the moment arm through your spine, so you can get more weight through the back and lift more weight. Now you might be thinking, perfect, I want to get stronger, I want to build more muscle. Low bar squat, it's got to be the one for me because I can put more weight through my legs. Sadly, it's not quite as simple as that. If you're a power lifter, that is the exercise that you should be doing, a low bar back squat, because yes, you can put more weight into your body and lift heavier weights. So, great power lifter. If your goal is general fitness or hypertrophy, particularly looking at quads, not an ideal exercise. Now the reason for it, if we look at hypertrophy, is yes, you can put more load into your system, but you're putting more load into your back and your glutes and your adductors comparatively to the quads compared to a high bar back squat. You're also increasing the axial loading through the squat, therefore putting more strain into the system. So your stimulus to fatigue ratio is reduced, so you're getting more fatigue for the stimulus. So comparatively speaking, the extra weight you're gaining by doing low bar squat is offset by the fatigue ratio, and it's also offset by the extra work through the lower back, through the glutes and through the adductors. So pound for pound, high bar back squat is going to give you more benefit to growing your quad muscles than a low bar back squat. So yeah, hypertrophy, high bar, powerlifting, low bar, because you'll lift more load. Now, again, because of that increased axial loading, it's going to make it harder to sustain more volume through the week. So again, it becomes a difficult thing to maintain and sustain. So not perfect for everybody. I'm not saying don't do it. Now, in terms of general gym users, general fitness, I do put people onto a low bar back squat if they struggle with things like ankle mobility, they struggle with their folding over too much. Yeah, so it means that I want to reduce that moment arm. So I do put some people into a low bar back squat just to get them started and help them with the pattern until they can improve their mobility. And then we can go to a higher bar back squat, which is better for them. Also, drawbacks with a low bar back squat are the effects it have on your wrists. So it can be painful on the wrists. And if you manage to offset the wrist problem by moving your elbows, it then can give you elbow pain. And again, that's something that you can train through, but again, you offsetting the load that you can lift to compensate for your wrists and elbows, so you're reducing the stimulus that you're getting in your quads. So again, it's kind of a vicious circle. You'd be just as well going to a high bar back squat and going with that. So yeah, that's the back squat, and that's the two kind of variations and why and what for them. Now, if we look at the front squat. Okay, front squat, another great exercise performed as such, which again targets your quads. Now this exercise is one, again, I do give to my athletes, but I have certain reasons why I do it, which I will now go into. The main reason that you would be using a front squat is if you are a weightlifter. So involved in the sport of weightlifting. So you usually don't know, weightlifting is what some people refer to as Olympic weightlifting or Ollie lifting. It is the snatch and the clean and jerk. Now, in the clean and jerk, you will receive the bar in a front squat position at the bottom of the front squat. That's how you receive it when you clean the bar. So it's imperative that you've got a great front squat in order to perform the movement effectively to your best ability. So if you're a weightlifter, 100%, that is when you should be doing front squat, and you should be doing plenty of them. If your goal is to get stronger or hypertrophy, there's limitations to it. Now, often the limitations tend to be mobility, so whether that's wrist mobility, shoulder mobility, so that reduces how much load you can actually carry, because you can't get your elbows high enough, so the bar is then rolling forward, etc., etc. So that's one of the main limiting factors. There's also the issue of stability with the front squat. Now, we know that stability is required to increase your force production. The more force production you can produce, the more you can lift. The more you can lift, the stronger you get, the more you can build muscle. Front squat reduces your stability just because of the position of the bar. It's slightly forward, so it can make you rock forward. Especially if you've got poor mobility, it's going to pull you even further forward. So you're not going to be able to produce as much force. Therefore, you're going to reduce your strength and your hypertrophy. So if your goal is hypertrophy, again, it's not a great exercise to be doing. You better just stick into high bar back squat. If your goal is general fitness, then yes, you can include this. I'm not saying only do it if you're a weightlifter. You can do it. It's worth including because one, it can help with wrist mobility, shoulder mobility, and it transfers over into things like thrusters and presses and stuff like that, so it improves that. That's part of the reason I use it in some of my sessions and some of my classes, is for the overall transfer into other exercises that we do. So if you're a CrossFitter or something like that, then yes, front squat is appropriate because you do weightlifting, but you also do all these other movements like thrusters or wall balls even. So it is an exercise that you would need to do and be good at. And like I say, I use it because of the transference over. Now I know some people will say that front squat's better for quads, so if you want to grow your quads, front squat's better because it puts more strain into the quadriceps. While yes, you can get slightly more quad activation, if you like, doing a front squat, it kind of goes the opposite way of the high bar back squat to low bar back squat, where the extra load is giving you too much axial fatigue. If we go from a high bar back squat down to a front squat, yeah, you might get more activation in the quads, maybe a little bit, but because of the reduced load you're lifting, because you can't lift as heavy as a back squat, you're not going to get the same stimulus that you would from the high bar back squat. So it doesn't work quite simply as, well, I get more quad activation. It's so minimal, any extra quad activation, it's hardly worth writing home about. But coupled with the fact that you can't lift as much as a back squat, you're not going to get that stimulus. So it's not worth using as a hypertrophy exercise if that's your main goal. Stick to your high bar back squat. Now there is another squat variation we should briefly talk about. Now that is overhead squats. Again, this pertains particularly to weightlifting. So unless you're a weightlifter, there isn't much call for this. Maybe to improve your mobility in your shoulders, but there's other ways to improve your mobility in your shoulders. So with the overhead squat, we're holding the bar above the head, and we've got to really open those shoulders, get nice and deep, and back up. It's not an exercise I perform a lot, because I don't do a lot of weightlifting nowadays. I don't walk backwards into a rack. So yeah, I'm a bit tight, a bit stiff. The load I can lift, it's not very heavy, comparatively speaking. So worthwhile in terms of developing muscle strength or muscle size in my legs. I'm not going to get much benefit from it. I will get a lot of benefit from improving my shoulder stability, my shoulder mobility as well, and I'll also get improvements in my thoracic mobility because I need a good thoracic mobility to do the overhead squat. But beyond that, it's not one that I would recommend for your average gym goer. Like I say, unless you're taking up weightlifting, don't bother with an overhead squat. Now, like I mentioned at the start, there's a number of squat variations you can use throughout your training, and they will all have slightly different stimuluses. For instance, I mentioned pistol squats or skater squats, goblet squats, another one. Now, these all have their place, but you've got to remember what your goal is. Now, if your goal is like general fitness, general conditioning, then things like your, goblet squats, which would be like so, with your dumbbell or a kettlebell down. They're fine exercises, there's nothing wrong with them. But chances are you're not going to be able to lift a massive amount of load, so if your goal is to grow your muscles, it's not going to be a great exercise. If your goal is to improve your cardiovascular system, get general fitness, general conditioning, some endurance in your legs, then perfect exercise, nothing wrong with it at all. So go ahead, goblet squat, if that's your goal. So if we have to sum it up, lots of different variations of the squat. Pick the one that's right for you. Hypertrophy is your goal, high bar back squat. Powerlifting is your goal, low bar back squat. You're a weightlifter, front squat, overhead squat. General fitness and conditioning is your goal. You can play around with most of them. They'll all have a place. I'm not saying don't ever do any of them. You can pick and choose, but weigh up what you're training for, why you're training, how your body is, what movement you can achieve, and then go from there. In terms of how to perform the exercises, if you're unsure, my recommendation is seek help from a professional. You can look on YouTube, there's loads of videos out there saying how to, but it's hard for you to see what you're doing wrong if you're struggling with them, so professional help is always worthwhile. Here endeth the sermon, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Like, comment, subscribe, ring that little bell so you get notifications. I will keep posting videos, aiming for every Saturday, one a week, keep them churning out, and I'll see you in the next one. Big love.